This is almost a companion piece to the last video I talked about with The Sound of Freedom beating out Mission Impossible for the #3 spot, followed by Oppenheimer and then Barbie. And a lot of this is the reason why. So Mission Impossible 7 suffers worst box office drop in franchise history. So going down into this article from the Direct, it's saying that on its opening weekend, it was able to make $56.2 million domestically, and that's compared to Mission Impossible Fallout, which made $61 million. And the reason a lot of people are comparing this to Mission Impossible Fallout is because globally it was able to take in $791 million. So not too bad for this, but that also had $178 million production budget, whereas Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning's production budget was around $300 million, which means it needs to make around $700 to $800 million globally just to be considered a success. So that means it needs to be on pace to at least match what the best one in the franchise has done. And right now we're seeing the worst box office drop from week to week. Right now, going down in this article, the week-to-week drop-off was around 64% from last week. So only bringing in $19.5 million domestically. Not the best thing in the world for a movie that needs to keep up with its greatest movie in its franchise history. But going back up in this article, you've seen that the 5-day total for this movie in its opening 5 days was 80 million, which is 3% more than Fallout. So that's not so bad. But one thing also to keep in mind is that Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning is actually having a pretty decent overseas turnout, and right now it's already surpassed its production budget. It still needs to make around $330 million to probably $400 million in order to be considered successful, but that's possible with the overseas turnout. I mean, even looking at the box office for Fallout, you see it actually made significantly more overseas than it did domestically. But one thing that people were trying to think is they thought it was going to be like the Top Gun Maverick. I mean, that was kind of my initial thoughts too, was you're going to see a huge turnout for domestic audiences for like Top Gun Maverick levels, but that wasn't the case. But still, it did really well internationally, and that's kind of the part for the course for the Mission Impossible movies. And a lot of that is predicated on how do people perceive this movie. Jumping over to Rotten Tomatoes for the reviews on this, you see it's actually pretty good with audiences and critics alike. I put out a review of it about last week and I gave it favorable reviews. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily something that people need to run out and go see, but if you're looking to go see a movie in the theaters, I mean, that's not a bad one to check out right now. Of course, you got the competition like Barbie and Oppenheimer, and especially Oppenheimer taking the IMAX screens away from this. And this was one of the big selling points for this is see it on the IMAX screen, premium movie going experience, watch Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, and now that's being stripped away from it. I mean, through no fault of its own. I mean, that's just kind of the way things go. I mean, you just have competition in the theaters right now. But I think there's going to be a lot of that initial push to see those two movies that came out this weekend. And then of the coming weeks go, we're going to see things kind of level off a little bit, and it's going to be a little bit more competitive at the box office. And that's why some people are saying just because it didn't do too well in like the first couple weeks and it had like that huge drop off doesn't mean it's out. Like I said, you still have the international audience, and the records show that we actually do see a lot of big international box office results for the Mission Impossible franchise as a whole. And I think that's something to be expected with this one too. Is it going to be enough to carry it over that line that it needs to make? We don't know. I mean, there's really no way of saying right now, but I don't think it's out of the question right now. I mean, it's definitely not being a bomb at this point, but it's has to work a little bit harder in order to be considered successful. If I was just to bet on it right now, I would say that I expect this one to still make money down the line. It might just take a little bit longer than they were initially anticipating, but I don't think there's going to be a problem with it, at least from what I've seen so far. And if this previous week has anything to go by, especially with its international numbers, I think it should be fine because it did hit a pretty good milestone right now. I mean, being profitable, I mean, not profitable, making its budget back in the second week is pretty good. I mean, you got things like Indiana Jones or The Flash. It took a while, and it just did that. So I think at least as far as summer box office bombs have gone, this is still too early to call. But let me know what you think in the comments. Did you see this? Do you like it, or did you like it? And if you like this video, make sure you click that button, share the video out there, and subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date with the latest news. Thank you.